Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Faustine Chan. I'm the Business Innovation Manager for BBB serving the Pacific Southwest. So this is actually our end of our summer seminar series that we've been having our webinars. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's a great topic. This webinar is being recorded, so if you do need to review the information or if you want to share it with your team, it will be posted on events.bbcommunity.org in 1 to 2 business days. If you do have questions throughout today's webinar, please type them in the chat option. We can answer those throughout the webinar, or we can answer them at the end as well. We have a great speaker today. We've actually had Margo present in person, so it's kind of neat to see her virtually. We have Margo Crawford. She is a certified organizer coach and professional speaker for the company for Wave Productivity, which is a company that she owns. She is a master at helping her clients create a thriving workplace and sparking immediate action with her audiences. Her presentations are packed with how-tos, humor, inspiration, leaving people feeling motivated to become more productive, organized, and empowered. So please welcome our speaker today, Margo Crawford.
Thank you. I'm going to just share my screen so you'll have a PowerPoint. We'll have a PowerPoint up and running. So welcome everyone. I'm Margo Crawford with Wave Productivity. I'm a productivity coach and professional organizer, and I help people get more focused, organized, and productive in their workday. I've been in the organizing industry for over 17 years, and I love to be able to help people get more focused, organized, and productive so that they can have better days at work.
Hi, Margo. Sorry to interrupt. Can you restart your screen again? It's black again.
Oh, okay. How is that? Can you see it now?
Perfect, yes.
Okay, good. So a little bit about me. I grew up on the East Coast. I lived in Arizona for about a decade, and I am an avid surfer. So I took the two things that I loved, catching waves and productivity, and put them together, and that's why my business is named Wave Productivity. I've traveled all over the world to find perfect waves on my surfboard, and it's a great activity for me and lots of fun. The other fun I have is serving my clients and helping them. And I'm so happy to be here today to share tools and techniques with you. And we're going to be talking about email management, ways that you can get out of your inbox and back into life in an effective and efficient way. And hold on while there's a little tech issue. It doesn't seem to be forwarding. Let me try to share my screen again. Bear with me for just a sec. Okay, Faustine, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Perfect. Let's see if we can advance from here. Perfect. Great. So today we're talking about email management. And I've gone back and even looked at productivity articles from the 1800s. And what I have found is that overwhelm is nothing new. In the 1800s, in the turn of the century, when we had the Industrial Revolution, people felt that at the time their technology was overwhelming and would cause anxiousness. Today, we certainly have a lot of overwhelm in the work that we're doing. And really, if you think about it, there are some people who lead very hectic lives, and other people where they're just cool as a cucumber. They have like a suit of Teflon, nothing sticks. So it's really about how you handle the overwhelm that you have in your day-to-day work. And in your email inbox. Now, the goal here is not that you'll walk away from this webinar and be an email master or quickly get to inbox zero in a day. The goal here is that I can share tips and techniques with you that you can implement right away that will make a difference in the way that you work. A little bit about this presentation, it's set up for different learning styles. So if you're a visual learner, what I want you to do is take a look at the pictures that are up on the screen. Those pictures are there for you. You can burn those into your memory, and even weeks later, when you're thinking about what we talked about, think about the pictures that you saw, and the topics and techniques will naturally come back to you. If you're a kinesthetic learner where you need to do the work, I really suggest you take notes on the tips and techniques that you feel would work for you. And if you're an auditory learner, you get to sit back and relax and listen. You can soak it all in, and all the information gets in your brain somehow. Just know that if you have your camera off and you're right now multitasking and you're in your email inbox or doing other work, that is really not an effective way to handle a webinar. The most effective way to work in a webinar is to engage with the information. So throughout this webinar, I may be asking questions. You can chat them and you can put your answers in the chat box. Also know that you can ask a question anytime. I'll be able to answer it. You won't be interrupting me. Faustine is going to be monitoring the chat box so that we can have some interaction. And then you can always take notes for yourself. They've been doing some brain studies on video conferencing like Zoom, and what they've found is that our brains aren't taking in all of the information when we're in a video conferencing situation. So taking notes on this information can help you engage and help you remember the information that we're talking about. So if you could get out of your email inbox and back into life, what would you want to be doing instead of email? Type that into the chat box, and Faustine will call off the answers. For me, I know that I don't want to be in my email inbox. I'd love to be out surfing waves, hanging out on the water, having fun.
So we have Tammy that writes, spend more time with productive work. Donna writes, being outside. Jason writes, spending more time outside. Susan writes, being in nature. That could be at the beach, hiking, gardening. Mina says, being outside. Jillian, being more productive. Megan writes, hike, read, garden, or all three. Yes. Gwendolyn writes, traveling around the world. We'll all miss that.
I love that. Wonderful. And someday we'll be able to get on a plane and travel all over the world soon, I hope. So just like you mentioned, hiking is one of the pictures. It's what I hear often. Spending time with family and pets. Another great thing I've heard is taking a nap or just sleeping in. Those are all great things to do instead of being in your email inbox. Thanks so much for sharing those things. And a few people had said, I want to be more productive. And just know that productivity is very individualized. So what does productivity mean to you? Another thing that I heard was, I want to be productive on specific projects or specific tasks. As small business owners, the other way to look at productivity in our work is to look at what can be revenue generating. We often choose tasks that are really quick and easy to do, but we don't stop to look at what can be revenue generation. So when I ask people, okay, so what's your challenges? What are the problems with your email inbox? People will say, I'm completely overwhelmed. There's so many email in my email inbox, I don't know where to even start or what to do. It just feels so overwhelming. I'm overloaded. And then I've had clients who've gotten sad or angry because they just can't manage and handle their email in an effective way. Notifications, the ringing and dinging and pop-up windows of email can definitely distract us and interrupt the flow that we have within the work that we're doing. And oftentimes We have a culture of reply all, where you may be CC'd on an email that doesn't really pertain to you, but then you have 20 responses related to that email that also don't pertain to you. So making sure that the culture of your office is one where email is handled efficiently and effectively. And oftentimes people will say, I just don't have enough time for email. There's so many coming in. Just know that I've worked with clients who are dealing with upwards of 500 email per day, 500 a day. And we've been able to manage their work so that they've been more effective, and certainly know that these tips and techniques can help you as well. So people will ask me, what is productivity? And like I said, it's very individualized. But here's how I define productivity. It's getting things done despite what life throws at us. And life has certainly thrown us a curveball in the past couple of months. But were you able, and are you able, to get the things that you need done to make sure that your business is running smoothly? That's what productivity is all about. Now, over the 17 years that I've worked with clients, I would often ask them, what are your challenges? And I compiled all of that information and put it in this graph. So you can see at the bottom, it says desk and office. 10, 12 years ago, I would work in person and go into people's offices, and there would be piles of paper everywhere. That still happens. Take a look around your office. Are there piles of paper everywhere? That can definitely affect your own productivity. More and more, what I see is electronic disorganization, and that also deals with email as well. So your desktop is cluttered with documents. You can't find the emails that you need to get your hands on quickly, and it can be really frustrating. And if you're not dealing with that, then it's time management that can be an issue. Your calendar is cluttered. You may be missing meetings or overbooking because you don't have a handle on your time. When I'm working with entrepreneurs and business owners, one of the clutter problems that they have is the mental clutter. All the things they need to get done in a day seem to be stored in their mind. And when we can clear that out, there are creative ideas and thoughtful actions that they can take that are going to move their business forward. So if those are the challenges, if we look to moving up that ladder or these steps, you can take a step towards tasks and actions that are meaningful in your work. You can look at goals and ambitions that match the work and where you want to be in the future. And when you align your values within yourself, in your personal life, and in your professional life, then opportunities can arise. The opportunities to partner with other people, to add in a new revenue stream, or even pivot in the current crisis that we're dealing with. Now, one of the most important things that sits under all of these challenges is the foundation for productivity. And I want to talk about that foundation because it's a more holistic approach to productivity. One of the first things you need, and the cornerstone for productivity, is sleep. We all need to replenish our bodies and brains with energy, so when we wake up the next day, we can jump right into work and be really thoughtful about what we do. The Center for Disease Control calls sleep deprivation an epidemic. And here's why. Because it leads to things like heart disease, diabetes, car accidents, or even injuries at the job. Now, that isn't happening to us on a daily basis. When we go into work and we're sleep deprived, we may just feel really foggy. We can't concentrate. Forget future planning or projections. We can't even think through what the next hour is going to look like. So when we can get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, of restful sleep each night, we can come to work rejuvenated and refreshed. Next is healthy eating. I had a client who was joking with me and he said that he gained the 19 of COVID-19. So he was eating some pretty unhealthy snacks because he was working from home. He could grab some chips and some soda. And we talked about what shifts and changes he needed to make to his own snacking and healthy eating. Now, we hear about healthy eating as a thing to change, and we talk about how it can help you, but I also want you to think about how this will help your business. When we can provide energy for food and bring that back into our bodies, we can start having a great workday. Physical exercise. I know that it's hot in Arizona, so you may not be able to get out, but making sure that you get oxygen to the brain, the blood pumping. If you can get to the gym, that's great. And if you can do that safely, it might be that you take a short walk early in the morning, get some physical exercise in that way. And then lastly, making sure that you're calm and quiet. When we're stressed and overwhelmed at work, the executive functioning portion of our brain, it sits right here, gets pushed to the back. So the part that handles things like decision-making, strategy, planning, that all gets kind of thrown back. And what crops up in our brain is survival. And when we look to survival, we can't really think about our businesses bringing them forward. So I'm going to show you a technique which will help you calm and quiet your mind. 10 years ago, when I would talk about mindfulness, people would kind of look at me like I was woo-woo and a little bit wacky, but I'm so glad that mindfulness has made its way into business. So what I'd like for you to do is to sit comfortably in your chair, put both feet flat on the floor, and sit up straight. And I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose and out through your mouth. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And then what I want you to do is just resume your normal breathing and focus on your breathing. If any thoughts enter into your mind, notice it, but then focus back in on your breathing. And to finish up, I'd like you to take one more deep breath, the biggest breath you've taken all day. In through your nose, and exhale. Using this technique in any time that you transition from meeting to meeting, when you enter into your email inbox, using this technique to do some deep breathing will help you stay calm, especially when you feel overwhelmed and stressed. So I want to review those foundations for productivity again. Sleep, healthy eating, meditation or mindfulness, and exercise. And then I want you to think, what are you going to do? What can you do in the next 24 hours that would shift any of these four things? Would it be that tonight you're going to try and get some extra sleep? Could it be that today is the day that you choose some healthy snacks or get exercise? And you can always use that mindful meditation technique in any of the work that you're doing in the next 24 hours. And if you see a change, if you use this technique, you make shifts, you see a change, you can then start doing it and creating a habit around it. Now you might be asking, okay, she hasn't talked about email management or inbox at all. What's going on here? Well, I can tell you, if you don't have sleep, healthy eating, mindfulness, meditation, and exercise, you won't be productive. Including these four things become the foundation so that you can build a better day in your workday. Without them, you'll start to struggle, be confused, find that you're cluttered and unable to work. So focus in on these four strategies to remain productive, not only in your email inbox, but life in general. So now let's start really digging in deep on email management itself. And let's start breaking it down. There are only 3 kinds of email. Things you have to know, things you have to do, and trash. It's that simple. And then there's only 5 actions that you can take. Delete, get it in the trash. Delegate, meaning that you're going to forward this message with some clear instructions on how that person can manage the job or manage the email. Reply. So if you can get it done in 2 minutes or less, just get it done. I use this technique in all of my presentations. This can really change the way you work, not just from email, but for anything coming your way. If you can get it done in 2 minutes or less, just get it done. When I work with clients in their individual email inboxes, oftentimes what I'll find is a bunch of messages that would take just 30 seconds to clear out of their inbox, but instead they stack them up. They'll go in their inbox and read and reread and scan again, when if they just answered it in the moment, they could get it off their plate and out of their inbox. Of course, you would need to file it. And before everyone came into the Zoom meeting, Faustine and I were actually chatting about this. I had read a wonderful Harvard Business Review article on email management. Now, 5 years ago, I would have told you, set up different email folders or file folders to hold your email. And each one would have a product or a company name. This Harvard Business Review article really threw things on its head and said, with the search capabilities that are available in Gmail and Outlook, that they have done such a great job of those search capabilities that we could just have a folder that says file or whatever you want to call it, and then put email, all of your emails into that one folder. And then from there, you could sort and search the information that you needed. That can cut down on the amount of time you're filing email. And then if you have a task that you have to do, you know it's going to take more than 2 minutes, scheduling time on your calendar to actually make sure that it gets done. So the 5 actions: delegate, delete, reply, file, and schedule time. So Tim Ferriss had a wonderful quote. He is a productivity guru, and he wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. He strongly suggests doing delegation to make a 4-hour work week happen. But what he said about email is that email is the single greatest time waster in modern life. And the reason why it is the single greatest time waster is because we don't have clarity around how to manage our inbox. And we haven't broken down email itself. So we just broke it down. So let's talk about some boundaries that we can create around email management that would be helpful. For an empty inbox, you want to think about how many is too many. I've had clients where they have had thousands of email in their inbox. It doesn't bother them a bit. They're fine with it. And I've had other people, when they have 5 or 10 or 15, feel overwhelmed and anxious. So just know how many in your inbox, how many email in your inbox feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. Know that number. And then respond to it. So if it's 25 feels totally out of control, know that when you're hitting 20, you may need to schedule time so that you can manage your emails so you have a lower number. Some people strive for inbox 0, meaning that they have no email in their inbox. That's great for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. So know that you don't need to struggle for that you can strive for it. You also want to think about your response time. Each industry is different, so your response time will be different. But what is the response time for your company? For me, there are no productivity emergencies, and my clients know that I'll respond within 48 hours. but what is the response time for you? I've worked with surgeons who said, it's fine that I don't respond within 24 hours. Because if they have an emergency for work, they're going to be getting a phone call. And then I've worked with real estate agents who have said, I need to check email on the hour or every 2 hours based on a deal that's going through. Things can fall apart really quickly in real estate. And so they need to be on top of things and reply and answer to email sooner than 24 hours. But what fits your work and what you're doing? Having clarity on that will help you create some boundaries around email management. And then find out how many emails are reoccurring for you, where you're typing in the information over and over. What you can do instead is create a canned response in Gmail. In Outlook, you can create a signature so that, yes, you certainly want to personalize maybe the beginning of the email or the end of the email or both, but that the bulk of the information that you're sending out remains the same and you're not typing it over and over. Also look at what email can you unsubscribe to. And know that I've worked with companies where they can't unsubscribe, that they have to filter into a folder the emails that come through. And the reason is because there are some companies that when they have your email information, if you unsubscribe, they will then sell your email to other companies to spam you. It's a bummer, but it's true. And so when you feel like you're unsubscribing to one, you may get 4 more. So know if unsubscribing works best for you, or if filtering your email into a folder may work better. Now, digging even deeper into some tips and techniques, what you'll want to do is shut any doors or windows. If you're working hybrid right now, where you may be working in an office space, making sure that you shut the door so that you're not interrupted. If you're working from home, making sure that you're in a space, hopefully where you can shut a door. And what I mean by when you're shutting windows, it actually means the pop-up windows that show up for Outlook or any other push notifications. So you want to stop the alarms. If there's any ringing, dinging, blinging coming off of your phone or on your computer, turning off those notifications will help you stay focused, stop the interruptions and distractions, and allow you to create some workflow where you feel connected to the work and engaged in your work. You want to use your energy wisely. I've had clients who've talked about how when they first start their day, the first thing they jump into is email. Or you wake up in the morning and you grab your phone and you check email. It's not that you're going to respond or act on it. You're just looking at it just to keep busy. It's one of the worst things that you can do in terms of productivity. What you want to do is find out when your energy is at its highest. Many of us, it's in the morning, but for some people who start off slow in the morning, it might be in the afternoon, or you might even be a night owl. If that's the case, what you want to do is make sure that you hit email when you have mid to low energy. Email generally is not a high energy task. High energy tasks include revenue generation, customer experience, and relations, and reaching out to customers in a great way to connect you and them to your business. Email can almost take a back burner for some of the work that you're doing. So making sure that your energy is at mid to low levels when you're working in your email inbox. You also want to set a time limit. I was talking with a client yesterday, and we determined that just 2 to 3 times where he checks his email is probably best throughout the day. That choosing those times where he can be proactive instead of reactive in his email inbox. So he would choose a time mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and later on at the end of the day to check email and check his inbox. And then when you do go in on those proactive times, checking your email inbox, that you limit your time so that you're not spending hours in your email inbox, that you take a chunk of time, 45 minutes. How many emails can I get through in 45 minutes? Handling that, getting out, and then choosing some high priority tasks that you can work on. When you are in your email inbox, one of the best questions that you can ask yourself is, what is my next action? Opening up an email, reading it through and saying, what action do I need to take to move this forward, can be really helpful in determining what you need to do next. If it takes 2 minutes or less, then just do it then. And if you need to, schedule time on your calendar if you feel it would take longer than 2 minutes. If you feel like an email is going to run really long, one of the things that you can do is grab your phone. Studies have found that when we answer email from our phones, that we're more brief. So we don't take paragraph after paragraph to explain something. If we're typing it through our phone, we'll include some brevity in that email. Another thing that you can do to be brief and be very concise is to answer a question in the subject line. So you may get an email that asks a question, hey, can we meet on Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning? Great. What you can do is you can respond in the subject line, confirming our meeting for Thursday, 7 a.m., and then you can write EOM. EOM stands for end of message. You can send that in the subject line. What my clients have found is that when they do that oftentimes the response that they get is, wow, you seem really busy. It was great that you could get that information to me really quickly in the subject line. And that can stop some of the back and forth that happens with email. Just by sending that short message in your subject line and finishing up with EOM. And then lastly, asking yourself, is email the best communication? It might mean that you need to pick up the phone, make a phone call, and actually have a conversation. Now, I want you to be writing some really great emails. So let's take a look at some ways to do that. First, what you want to do is create a clear and concise subject line. This one says, there's a presentation on email management. It also lists the date, and it tells the person the next action they need to take. You need to respond today. It's not sent to everyone in their organization. It's sent to some very specific people. They're not hitting reply all. And I want to make sure that you don't hit reply all. Notice that it's 3 short paragraphs. Anything longer than that, you should probably be having a conversation. It also means that the person doesn't need to scroll down when they're reading the email because it is concise. It uses an if-then scenario. So if you're not able to attend, then contact me. An even better scenario is that if you can delegate it. For instance, if you don't receive the package, contact John in our office and he'll make sure that he resends it out to you. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients, I'll find that there are lots of meetings that are stacked up in their email inbox that never get to their calendar. And what happens is people will start to overbook. So some things that you can do is make sure that you can get that information into your calendar really quickly. If you're using Outlook, you can actually drag the email straight into your calendar on that specific day and time, and all the information will be there for you. If you feel like you're ping-ponging back and forth to find a meeting time, one of the great things that you can do is to say, please send me 3 dates and times that are available for us to meet. I'll confirm back with you on the date, the time, and the location, and that can shore up some of the communication about meeting times. Other things that you can use are scheduling tech apps and platforms like Acuity or Calendly, where you create a link that gets put into your email. That person can click on that link and then schedule any meetings based on their own calendar. Now you'll notice this doctored email is to me and from me, so love is very appropriate, I think, but certainly you need to check and manage your emotions when you're handling email. If you are hungry, angry, lonely, tired, it is not the time to be engaging with email. Take care of yourself and then come back to the email itself. Also know, during the COVID crisis, your salutation can be extremely important in your email. All the best might not go over so well if the person is just getting over COVID-19. So be very careful in what you're sending out in terms of your salutation. Another piece that's extremely important in your email is making sure that all of your contact information is included in every single email. I'm sure this has happened to you, where you've gone back, you've had an email, gone back in to check because you need to call that person, and none of their information is there except their name. Don't be that person. Make sure that all of your information on ways to contact you is included in your email. And notice right at the bottom of this email, it says, please note, I answer email early in the morning and late in the afternoon. If this is an emergency, please contact me. I answer email within 24 hours. So if you haven't heard back from me, please check your spam folder. Now, naturally, this won't work. The spam folder message won't work if this is the first email that you're sending to them. But certainly, time after time, if they continue to see this message, they will be checking their spam folder, knowing that you respond within 24 hours. They also know the boundaries that you've created around email management. And lastly, you'll want to file it. Get it out of your inbox. Some other quick techniques is speed typing. Right before this presentation, I was talking to a client who said that he was hunting and pecking on his keyboard. If you're not typing up to 50 to 75 words per minute, you need to learn to type. So speed typing is extremely important. Another great technique is unroll.me. What that does is it takes some of your junk email that you still like looking at, putting it into one daily digest and sending it in one email. That way you can scan all of those emails that may not be completely important. Know that you can get some coupons and some sales information, but have it all in one daily digest. Another thing that you can try is blocking sites like Antisocial. On blocking sites and apps and platforms like Antisocial, you can say, I don't want to get on Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon to go shopping. You block those sites for a certain amount of time, let's say 2 hours, and then for the next 2 hours, you can focus in without the temptation of getting on any of those websites. So in talking this through, we've handled a lot of issues on volume, on interruption, confusion and emotion, time management, and the overwhelm that you have with your inbox. I want to check in and find out, what questions do you have for me? You can type those into the chat box and Faustine will read them off.
We'll just give everyone a minute or two to write any comments or questions. We did have a comment from Regina. She put, I put, please reply first in the subject line along with the subject so people know I need an answer probably quickly. So that's a great tip, Regina.
That is a great tip. And another added thing is to include the date. Please reply by date and time.
We have Jillian who writes, so do you recommend the file approach or do you still think the IND files are better for storage?
So I would say, Regina, that's a really good question. I would say that it really depends on your personality and how your brain works. So there are some people who feel fine with just getting it into one file folder and then being able to search. Some people really feel like they have a better handle and are more in control when they can add file folders that have specific projects or specific parts of their work and parcel it out so that they know that they can find it quickly and easily. It really is dependent on kind of how you work, what your industry is, and how your brain works. And I would stress the how your brain works. For people who are highly organized, letting go of those file folders can be really difficult and confusing.
Great, thank you. And then we also have Susan who writes, what do you do if a person gets offensive when you do EOM?
I've never had that happen. And I don't know of anyone who has used EOM. So I can see where it's kind of short, but if you're running out of time, if you want to be clear and concise, then making sure that you talk about EOM in your staff meetings. So talking about how you all handle email management. So making sure that you're not hitting reply all, making sure that you are talking through what EOM means and when to use it. Another thing to be discussing, especially now that people are working from home, is the platforms that they're going to use. So people are using things like Slack and Asana so that they can keep track of workflow and production on specific tasks in a team and working remotely. And how does email fold into that? Those are all conversations that you need to have. I've never had anyone had offense to EOM. I've only had people come back to me and say, wow, you must be really busy, and they appreciated the concise message.
Great, thank you. Susan writes, what do you do about your sent folder?
So can you be more specific, Susan? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by what do you do with your send folder. I'll give you a few minutes to type that in. I've not had any clients who've had any issues with send.
So she replies, sometimes I need to refer to emails I sent a client, but I tend to have too many in this folder.
Sure. So after hitting send, getting in the habit of adding that to a project or client folder can be helpful. I can't stress enough how much search capabilities have come into play and have gotten consistently better over time. So just going into your send and searching can be helpful. Batching email can also be helpful. So what you can do is in your send folder, type in that person's name or the project name, batching all of those emails and then getting them into a file folder may help you feel like you have more of those emails under control. I hope that answered your question, Susan.
So we also have Tammy that writes, do you suggest using automatic routing rules for funneling incoming emails to individual files?
Yes, I do. That's called filtering. So in Outlook, you can filter through specific emails so they don't even hit your inbox. Things like, so I have a folder called networking, and all of anything that says networking goes into that folder, and then I'll check through to see what networking opportunities are available virtually or in person, and then put them on my calendar. It might mean that you have a friend or colleague's newsletter. You don't want to unsubscribe to that because they are a friend and colleague. And so getting that filtered through. So yes, I do suggest using filtering. It's a great way to handle email and your inbox.
Great, thank you. Jillian also writes, a friend told me to keep only the latest string of an email, but I am not sure looking for that is the easiest.
Sure. So Jillian, I would make sure that, I'm not sure if you're working for a company or you own your own business. If you're working for a company, it's really important to know what their email policies are. You may not be able to delete any of that information because of legal issues or accounting issues. So be very careful and know what you can and can't delete. If you own your own business, making sure that you speak to your lawyer and your accountant. And there are some people on this call who deal with accounting and HR who could probably speak to that. And really looking at putting a policy in place of what you can hold on to and what you can let go of that match those legal and accounting issues.
Great, thank you. Tammy has a follow-up question. Can you please explain what you meant by batching when you were responding to Susan about the sent folder?
Sure. So when you are batching email, I'll give you a great example. You may come back from vacation and you have hundreds of email in your inbox. You know that you have a specific customer that you need to get to right away. We'll call him John Smith. In the search section, you will type in John Smith, and all of John Smith's emails will show up at the top of your email inbox. And then you can start looking at the threads and emails that he has sent and make sure that you respond to them. It also means that you can take those batched emails and move them all into a folder. So Tammy, I hope that answers your question. If any of you feel like you have follow-up questions or are unsure of what I talked about, I'm more than happy to speak with you offline on specific challenges you have. You can connect with me through my website. There's a contact us page. You can pop in your answer, pop in your question, and I'll be able to answer it. One question that I get asked often is, I've heard these techniques before and I'm still struggling. What do I do? One thing I'm offering to all of the members here for the Better Business Bureau is that we can go on a 30-minute free consultation. So we can talk about some of your productivity challenges and then talk about how coaching can work best for you. Before we close today, Faustine, I just want to check in and see if there's any other questions.
I don't see any other questions, but we do have a tip from Regina. She writes, I color code my emails so it makes it easier to refer to when I need to find something. For example, I give certain people a color so the next time I speak to that person, I have that email flagged and colored on my side task panel and can open it easily. So that's a great tip, Regina.
It is a great tip, Regina. And to even take it further, really look at what do those colors mean. So for Regina, they're very specific. Yellow means something to Regina and it means something to that client, for that specific client in email. A lot of people will start, hey, I love colors, let me try color coding, but then never define and create boundaries on what those colors mean. So if a color-coded system sounds like it's for you, make sure that you assign what those colors mean and how you're going to react to them. So as we end for today, I want you to know that if you use these techniques and tips, you can live outside of your inbox and start doing all of the things that you talked about in the chat, like gardening and hiking and having fun, being with your family, and doing the things that you love with the people that you love. Also know that there's many ways that we can connect. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet up with you there. You can also find me on waveproductivity.com. At waveproductivity.com, we have a blog that comes out twice a month. It has valuable information on how to be more productive, not just with email, but with a lot of other challenges that people have with productivity. So I'd love to connect with you there. And I'd also like to thank you. Thank you for your time and attention today. And I hope that your email is great so that you can have better days at work.
Great. Thank you so much, Margo, for taking time out of your busy day to share all of our useful tips for email management. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Remember, if you did want to go ahead and review this webinar, it is recorded, so it will be posted on events.bbcommunity.org, so you can access that, or you can share it with your colleagues if they need help with email management as well. Please stay safe out there, everyone. Please be safe and healthy, and have a great day.